Okay, I think I'm live. You guys should be able to hear me. Give me just a second. Sorry about that. Let me turn the volume of this down on my side. Hey, hello, wonderful people of the internet. Welcome back to another episode of Leos Labs. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day, morning, night, afternoon, whatever time it happens to be your time. And yeah, I think we're going to get started today. I hit the microphone like twice just in the past like 10 seconds. But I have a couple quick notes to talk about before stream. I actually wrote them down on a sheet of paper right here. So let's talk about them really quick, and then we're going to hop into today's stream, which is, again, talking about fractal smear frames. Really excited to talk about it because it's been something that I've been kind of working on for the past year. I keep saying I've been working on this thing for the past year, and if you look at my development schedule of it, it has been for like a full year that I've been working on this thing. But it just... Oh, it's weird to dedicate like an entire year of your life working on this one thing. And admittedly, it's not like full time. It's like, you know, maybe on average 10 or 20 hours a week or something like that. And still have nothing to show for it. It's just kind of a bit sad. But that is how it is. And I think that actually leads us to a good point of discussion to start today off. By the way, Hanif and Agraj, hey, thank you guys so much for coming in. So I want to talk really quickly about, I guess, yesterday. So I didn't stream yesterday, which, if you guys know me, like, whenever I start streaming again, I kind of go gung-ho into streaming, especially when I talk about, like, when you're talking about streaming on Twitch and stuff like this. And usually what I do is I try to stream every day, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I started thinking a lot about how YouTube has changed in the past like 10 years since I've been uploading videos. And yeah, I realized probably if you go back in my history, the earliest videos from like 2016 or something, I actually had a lot of videos before 2016 that I uploaded starting in like 2013 or something like that. I just took them all down. There's two different strategies for like YouTube content creators. There's like the Vsauces of the world that just keep their entire history up and they let everyone see what they were working on for like basically since, you know, they started making content to begin with. I'm just not one of those people. I feel like every time you watch a Leos Labs video, you should come off feeling motivated, inspired in some way to learn a new topic. And if one of my videos does not meet meet my criteria of being, you know, good enough, I put it unlisted. I just don't want people to find that video and have that be their impression of me. Which means probably in the next few months, some of the other videos that you might know me for might also become unlisted, just because I might decide that they no longer fit the theme of the channel. Now, certain videos are always going to remain up, like, for example, understanding 4 dimensions of tesseract and the eigenvector video and the determinant video. These videos had their flaws, but overall, even with those flaws, I kind of consider them to be universally well received, you know? But some videos, like, for example, my most recent video, the... my failed gravity simulation videos, or my failed gravity, I don't remember what I called it, failed gravity something. I actually took that video down this past week. I took it down yesterday after a lot of thought, because I just received another comment on it, and sometimes you get comments that are really helpful and really useful, and sometimes you get comments that are just kind of like, they just kind of make you realize that, like, you don't want to defend this video anymore, and so you just take it down. And that's exactly what happened with the gravity simulation video. I just decided to take it down. It just wasn't worth fighting. That was one of those videos that it doesn't really teach anything. It's really just meant to be, it was meant as a way for me to, you know, kind of direct people to my Twitch stream at the time, and I just decided to take it down. So this kind of leads me into my first point, which is that, you know, YouTube has changed a lot in the past 10 years. YouTube comments have changed a lot in the past 10 years. But there are still like 2 different types of people who comment on a video. There's the people who comment because they just feel like commenting something. And I'm prone to doing this too. Like sometimes I'll just comment on a video without actually having anything worthwhile to say. But sometimes people will comment on videos and they have something really worthwhile to say and something very valuable. And I just want to say that as of the last stream, I did get a couple comments that were quite helpful, and so I do want to talk about those right now, if you guys don't mind. Let me just go over to my most recent video, well, Gambate, I guess. So in this live stream, sorry, I called it a video. In the live stream, we didn't get too many comments. Again, I don't really know how live streams are promoted by YouTube, so I'm not entirely sure if people even saw this in their subscription feeds or not. But essentially, there were a couple comments, one talking about daycare, but 2 important remarks that were made regarding some of the information I said yesterday regarding GPU computing. I'm not sure which one to go about first, so let's just do this one because it's just the one at the start. It's actually a very long post. I'm not going to read all of it, but essentially they were correcting some of the things that I said specifically about Google Cloud instances. I mentioned that on yesterday's stream, I don't really feel like the internode connectivity between like just nodes in a Google Cloud instance are necessarily going to be as fast as a high-performance computer. And I think it still holds true that I still don't know if a cloud instance will ever be able to beat an HPC. But that said, cloud instances are way better than I give them credit for. And this basically talks about everything that I didn't know. And here's the truth, right? I mentioned yesterday that I've been lucky enough to use MIT resources or Department of Energy resources or something like that for my entire life. I've always had my entire research life, not my entire life. And because of that, I haven't really had to use cloud services. Like 5 years ago, basically finding a GPU-capable cloud instance was difficult. Now that's not true. And so things have evolved a lot in the past 5-10 years, and you can probably use Google Cloud instances for anything that you want. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing was about Intel. So I mentioned yesterday that I don't really have a good understanding of how Intel's GPU software stack works. And they were basically saying that Intel is betting on SYCL, SYCL, which is kind of like, if you know what OpenCL is, or rather OpenGL, then you probably know what OpenCL is, and you might know about SYCL. It's kind of all in the Kronos Group's kind of like list of packages that they make. And basically they said Intel is betting on SYCL, and through the Intel DPC++ compiler, SYCL can also compile to NVIDIA, AMD, some FPGAs, and all of that kind of stuff. So basically, these guys were covering areas that I didn't know anything about, or rather, I don't know enough about, right? Because I've been drinking the Julia Kool-Aid for, I don't know, better part of 5 years now, so I'm kind of really in that ecosystem, but there's a lot of other things in other parts of the ecosystem that are growing just as fast. And this is because of machine learning, right? So many people are using deep learning networks and stuff like this. And though I don't really know so much about machine learning or deep learning or that kind of stuff, because so many people are now using GPUs for this purpose, all of my work with scientific computing and GPU has also become a very interesting area of development. So this is all stuff that I wanted to mention just before stream, because these are corrections to what I said on the last stream, and I just want to make sure that everyone knows that these comments are very much appreciated. However, some comments, I was about to say one API. Yeah. So one API is actually mentioned here, I believe, in the replies. So they say, NVIDIA provides CUDA, I assume, through NVIDIA HPC toolkit stuff. AMD provides HIP through ROCm, and Intel, has its SYCL extension called DPC++ through one API. And one API is available through kernel abstractions, which is something we mentioned, or we talked about yesterday, just for the record. By the way, hey, Valentine, how are you? I think we have a meeting in like an hour and a half or something like that. So the stream's not going to be super long, just for the record. Okay, so other things I just want to mention really quick before starting. I went ahead and wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. Like I was saying, YouTube has changed a lot in the past 10 years. And now like YouTube Live is way bigger than it was, 10 years ago when I started uploading content, as are YouTube Shorts and stuff like this. And I've kind of been thinking about the purpose of streaming on YouTube versus streaming on Twitch and all this kind of stuff. There's so many things to talk about here. But I kind of see YouTube Shorts and YouTube live streams as kind of like part of the YouTube ecosystem right now. And I don't know if it would be foolish of me not to use those tools. Does that make sense? So YouTube Live, I've always live streamed, right? YouTube Live is a way for me to basically re-engage with my community between uploads, right? If it takes me like 2 months to make a video, well, at the very least, I can put out live streams, and it allows me to better connect with you guys, my core audience, right? And I recognize that it's super early in the morning for people in the US. It's also midday for people in Europe, so it's not really good for anybody except for maybe Japanese people who have just gotten off of work. So that's why I want to keep the VODs available for people to watch after the stream is done and all that kind of stuff, because I recognize that kind of the people that I'm talking to right now are not necessarily the people who are live and watching and chat and all that kind of stuff, but it's also the people in the comment section, people who are maybe going to be watching the VODs afterwards, right? And so keeping that in mind, I kind of see the YouTube live stream as kind of a different thing. Onto the topic of YouTube Shorts. Personally, I don't watch short content. I don't usually engage with it too much. However, that said, I think YouTube Shorts has a very interesting take on, I guess, the YouTube algorithm as a whole, where YouTube live streams are kind of a better way to engage with your core audience. YouTube Shorts allows you to better engage with people outside of your audience. The algorithm really puts your face in front of people who would not ordinarily see the stuff that you're making. And so they're kind of two sides to the same coin. And as I start making more content, and as I start putting out regular YouTube videos again, whatever that means, I do probably intend to put some short content out and probably do more live streams. We'll see. I will say, it's always slightly disheartening to put a new video out after you have not been uploading for a while, because people have kind of forgotten why they subscribe to you, and they kind of forget everything. And so, yeah, I did lose almost 100 subscribers just since the last live stream, which is totally fair. I totally understand. It's fine. But it's still a little bit disheartening, like every time you upload after a brief hiatus, that it kind of hurts a bit. So let me just make sure I covered all of the points before moving on to the actual topic, which is the Fractal animation engine, and I do believe we're good. So if you guys have any further comments, questions, concerns, ideas, anything like that you want to talk about before maybe hopping into the actual content of today's stream, feel free to let me know. Marcus, hey. Lydian, Hanif, I think I already said hey. GMT plus 7 gang here. It's 7:10 p.m. Yeah, I actually figure for anyone kind of, I don't know, a little bit to the east of Europe is probably fine. But anyone anyone in the US and Europe, they're going to have trouble watching these streams. It is what it is. Like I said yesterday, I have a new kid. There's only so much that I can do. And I only have so much time available every day. And that time happens to be between 9 and 5 when my child can be in daycare. So, I mean, I really can't provide much more time than what I'm currently giving to this project. Let's see. Prost, wait, did you say itadakimasu? Itadakimasu? Wait, under what situation would you say itadakimasu? It's 8 a.m. Eastern? Yeah, so it should be 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 Central, and 6 a.m. for, 5 a.m. for people in California, right? Wait. So itadakimasu? Am I misreading? No, I'm not misreading this. That's what you say before eating, right? So it's I'm going to eat a meal, So I don't fully understand. Okay, lunchtime. That's fair enough. Okay, my brain I did not understand what that meant in that context. I'm sorry about that. Before you eat, I understood that. I was confused because there's very few situations where you'd walk up to someone, shake their hand, and say itadakimasu. It's why? Why would you do that? It's it'd be like ending a meeting with, gochizo sama deshita. It's why? It's just kind of weird. But I understand now. Lunchtime, I get it. My brain was not following that very well. Okay. So I'm going to hop over here. I'm going to open up a new terminal and open up Xernal PP. And we're just going to go ahead and start talking about the Fractal animation engine as it currently is, and things that I've been working on recently, all this kind of stuff over here. There's actually a lot of stuff I need to talk about here, a lot of baggage. So first of all, let's talk about what happened on Wednesday, right? So Wednesday, I was trying to update to Julia 1.9. In particular, I was also trying to update to the latest version of kernel abstractions. Now, kernel abstractions right now works particularly well for this particular project. However, the AMD stack for the most recent update is just kind of broken. It's not that it's broken. We know how to fix it, but it just has not been fixed yet, which I guess means it's still broken. So I'm kind of waiting on a PR to be merged there, and I'm also waiting for a PR to be merged on the NVIDIA side, and I guess also on the Intel side, since kernel abstractions does technically support that. So I'm just waiting on some PRs to merge before I can really update to the latest version of kernel abstractions. I did update to the latest version of Julia, so I can technically use Julia 1.9. However, I'm going to go ahead and show you that error right now. GitHub.com. Let's go to the Fractal animation engine here. And we go to issues. So for some reason, and this is something I don't fully understand, I'm getting this weird error when I use Julia 1.9 that I don't normally get when I use when I use Julia 1.7 or 1.8. And that's saying that the world is too new. Basically it says there was a nested task error. The nested task error method, oh, hello there. No method matching h square, blah, blah. The applicable method may be too new. Running in world h33629 while the current world is 33633. I know why this is happening, right? The reason this is happening is because what happens is the user writes a function, right? They'll write some sort of like equation or something like this. This is compiled into a function and then it is run, right? So what happens is we have a function A that is dependent on function B. Function B has not been compiled yet. So you compile function A, then you compile function B, and then you use function B in function A. And that's the issue here, because function B, it's just kind of weirdly compiled. I don't know how to fix this. And luckily, if I run the code twice, it's fine, but I have absolutely no idea how to fix this right now. So I just kind of said, okay, let's wait for the kernel abstractions, like stuff to be merged. Let's get that all working. And then I'll try this again. I don't know. Kernel abstraction 0.9 is not quite ready for prime time. It's a pre-release. Oh yeah, it's not a big deal. So for the record, Valentine is like the primary developer of kernel abstractions, which is kind of one of the core pieces of software that I use. One of the main reasons I'm using Julia to begin with. So I'm very happy that he's here. Also, he's a close personal friend of mine, so maybe I'm a bit biased here. But the truth is that kernel abstractions is a great package, and it really does help out the GPU ecosystem in Julia and generally all around. The only issue I have is that it was pushed to the main version of kernel abstractions, which means everyone's main package when they download kernel abstractions is 0.9, but it doesn't quite work yet for AMD or NVIDIA or anything like that. It's not a big deal because one of the packages was going to have to bite the bullet and just go ahead and merge the PR, and then the other two packages were going to have to deal with the aftermath of it. It had to happen this way. There had to be a small gap between kernel abstractions change and the other APIs changing, but it is what it is. What's your favorite Linux OS release? I mean, Arch Linux. I've been using Arch Linux since I've been using Linux itself. So I've been using Arch Linux for, oh gosh, since I was like 15, I've been using Arch Linux. So like, have I been using Arch Linux for 15 years? Holy crap. 15 years. I've been using this same setup for over a decade. Uh-oh. There's a lot of other fun stuff in just a second. Oh boy, the Fractal animation engine has been a real big problem. I'll describe exactly what's happening in just a second, by the way. And I'm also happy to join a call if you want to try to debug some of it. I've been running into a bunch of weird bugs just because the animation engine is not particularly well developed, just because I made it, you know. But yeah, so favorite Linux operating system, Arch Linux. I've been using it forever. I've been using the same like open box setup for like over 10 years. I'm not very good at changing. Does it not support hoisting? Wait, what do you mean? Does what not support hoisting? I'm going to ask a very stupid question. What do you mean by hoisting in this context? Sorry, I wasn't sure if you're talking about the kernel abstraction, like kind of staging process or something else. Okay. So with all that said, that's the update as to what happened on Wednesday. Basically, I can update to Julia 1.9. I cannot currently update to the latest version of kernel abstractions, so I'm just going to kind of wait and stay on 1.7 for now and kind of keep working on different changes with the Fractal animation engine until we get there. So let's finally, after 20 minutes of rambling, start talking about what the Fractal animation engine is. Now, if you guys have been here for any of the previous YouTube live streams, I did a couple of them back in the day, but they're all unlisted from the channel. You might know that I've been working on the Fractal animation engine for a long time. In fact, if you look at the development graph, let me just show you what it is right now. Let me go to Insights, I guess, and let's go to Contributors, and let's just take a look here. I think it should just load all the contributions over time or something like that. You'll see, I think I've added like 20,000 lines. Yeah, between the lines that I've added and I've subtracted from this repository in the past year, I've basically written like 25 to 30,000 lines of code for this particular project, which to some people might sound like a lot, to some people might sound like a little. It really doesn't matter. The point is, you can see that I've been working on this basically since the start of 2022 to here. This is where the main thrust of the development happened. And so over the entirety of the last year, yeah, there was like a gap here, 1 second. And this is because that was when my baby was born. Actually, for some reason, right after he was born, there was a little bit of activity. But then since then, it's basically been no activity. And then, briefly picking it up when I can since he was born. But yeah, so I've been working on this for a full year. I've done a decent amount of progress here. I've been working on it significantly. to basically make general purpose animations for this YouTube channel. Hoisting is when functions can be used at any place because they are globally available, so usage order does not matter. Yes, so that's the question, right? Like when it comes to Julia, the compilation pipeline is actually it's a bit weird, and I don't fully understand how it works. But in 1.7, I do believe it was fine. But in 1.9 and above, I mean, we're on 1.9 now. I don't know. This is something I have to figure out because the functions should be globally available. They should be. But yeah, I don't know. I have to figure this out. Anyway, this is not something I'm going to really delve into on today's stream. Today is more of a just kind of getting back into the swing of things, hopefully getting, some basic smear frames and stuff done and basic stuff. Okay, so Fractal Animation Engine. Let's talk about what it is. Fay.jl. I'm almost on the Fractal Animation Engine version, I don't know, 0.1.0, whatever the first version is. I'm almost about to put it into the Julia repositories, but I'm not quite there yet because I really want to get like a first kind of fully featured video out on my channel using the Fractal Animation Engine. I might have it removed and invoke latest. Oh, from kernel abstractions. If it's a kernel abstractions thing, then that's totally fine because I can actually just add in the invoke latest. I saw that as a potential fix, and I wasn't sure if I should just put that in there. In fact, we can try that really quick. Let me just go to CD projects, Fractal Animation, Fay.jl. 1 second, CD projects, Fractal Animation Engine. And I guess I'll just put an @invoke latest in front of the @inline for the Hutchinson operator. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do source. I'm going to make sure I'm going to git branch. Okay, git checkout updates. There it is. All right. Then we're going to do Julia --project. 1 second. -T12, and I'm going to set this to be 1.9. Okay, if I go here and I go into VI source, structs, fractal, I guess executable Hutchinson, and then I look for an inline. So what ends up happening, and I know this isn't the best way to do this, this is something that's definitely going to be fixed in the future. I think maybe I say without knowing exactly how to fix it. Currently what I do is I basically allow users to write whatever they want to write, right? And then after that's done, I then compile everything together into a giant function string, and then I basically do meta.parse at the end of this to turn it into an evaluatable function. So I guess what I'm going to try to do, would I need to put it in front of, wait, where do I put this invoke latest? It probably needs to be put in the actual kernel, not here. So let's go ahead and generate the error first, and let's go from there. So using revise, I'm an idiot because I was using 1.7 a second ago. Give me a second, I have to update. Of course, instantiate, what am I doing? Okay, now let's try it again. Resolve. Okay, just screw it. Remove manifest. All right, let's do it again. Yeah, sure, whatever. I don't care, man. I'm so sorry. Give me a second. I'm just gonna install the packages again, and then I'm gonna try this again. So let me kind of catch everybody up to speed as to what's happening here. So Julia has a package manager, right? It's pretty well done. It actually really helps with all of the big headaches to do with like installing software and like using like C or C++ or something like that. In fact, one of the reasons I continually say that Julia's GPU ecosystem is just better than any other language is because the package manager deals with installing all of your like runtime libraries and all this kind of stuff on its own. So you don't have to think about it, right? When you install AMD GPU, it does everything it needs to do. It installs all the RockM libraries. It installs everything else you need. So it just kind of works, right? However, because I've been switching between Julia 1.7 and 1.9, every once in a while, it doesn't recognize kind of the package differences or whatever. So when I try to basically reinstantiate or basically use software, and I've just flipped between 1.7 and 1.9, the package manager just doesn't really understand what's happening. And so basically what I ended up doing was I I removed like some of the auxiliary files or whatever and just had them regenerate those right now. The auxiliary file being the manifest.toml file, which I just removed. So I kind of just like did a scorched earth, like I don't care, let's just get something working type of thing. Okay, so using Fey, and now what I'm going to do is let this build. Hopefully it builds, and then after that I will just generate the error message as it currently is. And then I'm going to try adding in invoke latest, just at invoke latest, and hopefully that'll fix things. So I'm going to include examples square. I'm going to run the square example. For 1,000, this should generate the error if I am not an idiot, but chances are I am an idiot because every once in a while things work and every once in a while they don't work. And I'll kind of walk you through what's happening here. So I've got an example on the Fractal Animation Engine documentation. Where are we? Probably Laos Labs. Here we are. And let's go down to the, what is this? Oh, examples, rotating square. Okay. So here's the example I'm trying to run. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm generating a simple square, right? Here's your simple square. It's got pink, red, blue, green, right? The colors are slightly offset because I don't know, they look nicer than, I don't know, they look nicer against black. I just shaded them slightly differently, right? And then what I'm doing is I'm adding a post transformation to this particular square. There's two different types of ways for me to do this. The first way is to swirl a square like this, where I just kind of add basically a post transformation and we get like this kind of like slightly rotated object. The other one's a little bit more difficult to understand, and this is actually where I come up with the logo, the Fayflower logo. I'll go ahead and scroll down to show it here. The way in which we're generating this square is through something called an iterated function system. So an iterated function system is, one second, essentially a set of functions that can generate some sort of shape, right? So if you have three functions, you know, p plus a over 2, p plus b over 2, p plus c over 2, and you basically allow these functions to act on individual points. So by this I mean you have some point p, and this point p will kind of choose between one of these three functions at random. You eventually will generate the Sierpinski triangle, and I think I have a better visualization here. So let's imagine that you start with three new points, D, E, and F, and you allow each of these points to generate a single child that moves according to one of these functions, right? What this will do is it will generate 9 new points, a small triangle here, a small triangle here, and a small triangle here. If you allow those to generate new children, and those to generate new children again and again and again, eventually you start to generate the Sierpinski triangle. I think I can full screen this, and you guys should be able to see it just fine. And so this is what I mean, essentially, when I'm saying that if you follow this function set, you are able to generate a particular shape, right? So the idea is you can do this by basically tracking every child of every child of every child. That becomes a bit cumbersome. The other way to do this is by something called a chaos game, where the chaos game essentially starts with a random point, right? And then picks one of the functions at random until eventually the points land on the Sierpinski triangle. Because they've landed on the triangle, at this point they can't escape, right? And every time you move another function or you choose another function, again at random, every other point from that period on will be on the triangle, right? And so essentially what you can do is you can generate, you can generate shapes with functions, right? So here's the function we have here, p plus a over 2, p plus b, p plus c over 2. Then if we have p plus a over 2, p plus b over 2, p plus c over 2, and then p plus d over 2, we actually generate a square. If you change the function set to be something like this, you get the Barnsley fern, right? And so when I talked about this rotating square example, there are two things we could have done. So one, we could have taken this shape, that is the square, and basically done the iterated function system. And then after this is done, after we generate the square, we then rotate everything. The other thing we could have done is we could have said, okay, well, let's do function 1. And then after function 1 has moved its point, we can then at the same time move it again according to this rotation, right? So instead of generating the square, you've generated a weird mishmash between the rotation and the square itself, right? So you've combined these functions together into a larger iterated function system instead of seeing it as two separate iterated function systems. And that's how you get this example here. So again, this is kind of as a post-process rotation, and this is as a combination of combining the iterative function systems together. Now, I'm kind of talking about all this because the Fractal animation engine, as it is right now, can only really draw very basic shapes. I'm very far from being able to do like full, like interesting animations with it. But I have reason to believe that it's actually going to be really nice for several different purposes, and we'll talk about that a bit in a bit. Right now, the example I'm trying to generate is this one right here. So the error I've generated is right here. It's the same as we saw in the GitHub issue. And you can see the actual function that we're running is right here. So here's H2. Yeah, this is H2. And this is literally the function that we're running. Just we're executing this in a kernel abstractions kernel. If I run this one more time, it should run without any problems and generate a function or a file called out.png. So if we open that up, we get this guy right here. So here's our swirled square. It's a bit, you know, because we're using kind of this random algorithm, if you zoom in, you note that it's kind of spotty. Sorry about that, I feel the hiccups. But we'll talk about the spottiness kind of a bit later, if we need to. Okay, so that was the error. So now I'm gonna try to redo this by putting in the invoke latest. So I think what I'm gonna try to do is put it in the kernel. Right, I think you're right. So let me go into VI source, run, and then specifically Fractal Flame. And then what I want to do is every time I run H, which should be 1 second in here, you need to switch from the world you currently execute into the world the code is defined in. Right, so can I do that in kernel abstractions kernel? So I think I'm using the naive kernel, the naive chaos kernel. So if I go in here, 1 second. Can't be in the kernel, but on the kernel launch. Oh, on the kernel launch. So when I go up here, oh, this, by the way, it's quite messy. So you want to do an invoke latest on the kernel launch. So here, oh, I do have an H2 though. So let me just add it here, see what happens. I don't know if that's exactly where I need to put it. Using Faye. If this works, I might as well go ahead and merge the PR and stick with Julia 1.9 for now. Well, I'm not sure. Let me just see what the PR does. I don't think it changes the project.toml any. So let's just see what this happens or what happens with this, and then we can go from there. Okay, so that's compiled. Let's go ahead and include the example square. Let me get some water. All right, let's see what happens. Give it a second. It's got like some weird... There's a lot of weird symbolic stuff happening with this code right now, so it's kind of a bit... Yeah, it's going to be a bit funky. Oh, that worked. Okay, well, let's just screw it. Put this invoke latest in front of everything and just say we're done. I'm going to have to somehow... Yeah, I don't know exactly... the formatting here is kind of a bit... I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Wait, why am I not on screen? 1 second. What am I doing with my life? This? Oh, there we go. That worked. I completely forgot my keybinds. Did not remember them at all. Using VI instead of Vim. This man is Sigma. Oh boy, you don't even, like I said, I'm not very, I don't change too much. I'm kind of the same person I was 15 years ago. Using the same setup I've used 15 years ago. I am very resistant to change. So, I mean, I coded in Fortran 77 before entering my PhD. Like I'm quite resistant to change. When I started the Twitch stream 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whenever, I used to have Fortran Fridays. Alternatives are runtime generated functions or generated functions in general. So, right, so how would I guess I should just Google like how exactly I would use these. But let me just go and write it down because I think in general that's probably the best way to do it, right? This is just something the current version of the Fractal animation engine is very much like a first iteration of something that will hopefully become better. Runtime generated functions. Okay, I'm just gonna have that written down as something to look into. I might create an issue on it actually even later in stream about that because that probably helps, or should help in the long run. So let me go ahead and take a look here. So we iterate. I think this is the only place I call the kernel. Let me go ahead and check just to make sure. Kernel is called here, there. I believe that is it. Yep. The rest of them are actual kernels themselves. Yeah, I'll see you around, Valentine. Thanks for stopping by. Again, if you guys had any questions about kernel abstractions, he's the guy to ask. He's the one who developed it. He's also doing a lot more for the Julia lab and everything. Yeah, I don't know what to say, but yeah, thank you so much. Obviously, I really appreciate it. And I'm going to ask several questions in our meeting in like 2 hours, not related to this project, but related to Sesmic stuff, probably. Okay, see you around, man. What language is that? I'm currently using Julia. Admittedly, though, I'm using kind of a weird variation of Julia where it's like kind of a half kernel language in a way. So yeah, it's going to be a bit, it is Julia, but it is maybe not the Julia that you would expect. It is written in a slightly different way than how people typically write Julia code. Okay. I'm not entirely sure where to put this in Vocalatus, but I'm just going to move, like, I don't know, this down to the next line and add some spaces in and call it a day for my formatting. All right, what am I going to do? I'm going to move this down to the next line as well. And I understand this is really poorly written code. Again, this is the first iteration. I'm working on it. It'll get better. But for now, I'm just kind of writing code that works and can generate relatively quick results. Oh, thank goodness. All right, let's move this down, and that should, in principle, fix the issue I had before. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and write down the issue. I'm going to go ahead and push this as a change, and then probably rebase up to the current master. So let's just go ahead and do that right now, and I'll go ahead and do some GitHub stuff, and then we can finally talk about smear frames. Oh my gosh, I'm scattered. I'm so sorry. Just for the record, I'm normally scattered. Like anyone who is like here and watches my streams regularly knows I'm quite scattered, and I've been getting more and more scattered since I left OIST. But man, the level of scatteredness after having a child is insane. It is just, I was not expecting. What was changed in example smear? Get diff example smear. Oh, sure, that's a good change. Get add dot get status. Oh, get remove test.jl. All right. Okay. Get reset. Okay. Get add examples dot get add source. Oh, come on. Dot. There we go. It's fine. My brain is also scattered too. Yeah. My point was just to finish that topic out. Get status. There's going to be some time while CI builds. I'm going to finish up the topic after I push this. Let me just push it. Get commit -m. Fixing world error. World ending error. Wonderful. Okay, perfect. Get push origin updates. And let's go ahead and put that against CI, and then we can have some chats while we're working on that. All right, so let's go to here. Let's go to pull requests, and I should be able to update to 1.9. So that one's been fixed. Stack Overflow error on get backend, remove revise. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and mark this as ready for review. And then that will have CI built against it. And I'm just going to say we'll bump up to the latest kernel abstractions version later. Oh, shoot. One thing I need to do, though, is I need to double check to make sure I'm not committing something I don't want to commit. Yes, revise, I need to take revise off. File name equals file name, that's fine. These should all be fine. Oh, what is all this? Oh, this is stuff I just changed. Good, okay, so let me just go ahead and remove revise really quick. Over here, remove revise. I typoed, give me a second. That should be fine. Now we're gonna do git add project.toml git commit -m, moving, revise. Oh, come on, man. Come on, there we go. Git push, origin, updates. Okay, let's talk. I'm so sorry. While CI is building, let's talk about that really quick. My brain is also scattered too. People were telling me I have autism. Yeah, so people tell me I have autism all the time, and I'm wondering if that's just because So as I mentioned before, like I'm quite scattered. I've been really scattered since I left OIST. I've been even more scattered. In fact, since 2018, the level of scatteredness has increased probably exponentially. I say exponentially, but that's not entirely true. But my point is that like I have been having trouble just having like a consistent, coherent conversation. Part of the reason I'm continuing to do stream, and I want to do stream more regularly, is because, frankly, without having someone to talk to, literally the only people I have to talk to are my wife and my child. I have been really struggling to have like a really like I was struggling socially just because I'm now having trouble just like forming complete sentences, you know, like it's become a really big problem. And even though I do a lot of writing, you know, this doesn't really help with like the speaking so much. And in fact, my vocabulary has like dwindled to the point that it's like, I don't know, like I basically speak baby talk and that's it nowadays. But yeah, between the sleep deprivation of, not having, or between the sleep deprivation with the child and, you know, all the other projects I'm working on, I've been scattered, guys. I'm sorry about that. But, you know, progress is being made. And I'm doing my best to like kind of get back on track, all that kind of stuff. What about Nim? I didn't catch the train to Julia, and I hope Nim is more suitable for me. Julia is heavily used on neural network stuff, and sometimes I see it replacing Python due to runtime, but Nim has potential. I think better potential than Julia. Okay, so for the record, you're talking to someone who has very much drank the Julia Kool-Aid. I have been using Julia basically nonstop for the past 5 years, and to be honest, basically the entirety of is this the button I want? No. What button am I looking for? This button? Oh, hello. The entirety of like the code that I've written in the past 5 years, like the majority of it has been in Julia, right? So clearly, I'm very biased towards Julia, and I'm also very biased towards general purpose graphics processing unit computing. That is to say that I'm probably not the best person to ask for your particular use case, right? Because I don't really know what your use case is. If you're talking about building websites, Julia is not particularly well suited for building websites, but it's not bad, right? It's okay. It can do that. It's still a general purpose programming language. It's just that I kind of feel like Julia's like main shtick, the thing it's really good at, is in the scientific computing area. It's really good at like high performance computing and stuff like that. Now I say that knowing full well that people still don't use it in that area, right? People are kind of just now starting to use Julia for this type of stuff because it is lacking good distributed parallelism and stuff. You still have to rely on MPI for that. The main reason that people use Julia is because it's fast, basically as fast as C or C++, and it's just way easier to write stuff in. Like I said yesterday, when it comes to like, you know, just the GPU ecosystem in any language, the fact that Julia has like a built-in package manager and all this kind of stuff means that it's actually really, really nice for just like using GPU code. You literally just have to type in, you know, add CUDA using CUDA, and then just do a dot plus a, and you already have GPU computing kernels like on the fly generated for you. And that's really cool. That's something that other languages really struggle at, and Julia does super well, right? There's a lot of other reasons why I like Julia in terms of like its symbolic toolkit and all this kind of stuff, which I'm heavily using for the Fractal animation engine, by the way. Yeah, at the end of the day, you know, use the language you want. Like I kind of realized, I don't know, yesterday or the day before, that had I been writing this code in C or C++, and just kind of compiling the kernels as OpenCL compiles kernels as like basically a large string that is then parsed into some sort of function that is globally accessible by any other function, probably I could have gotten this written out or done way sooner, right? I mean, essentially OpenCL already reads everything in as a string, and all I need people to do is write down what they want to basically they need to write down like some sort of functions, right? They need to write down the iterative function system. So as long as they know what the function system is, there's some, you know, usable syntax and some error catching, I could have used OpenCL for this and it could have worked just fine. But again, you know, getting OpenCL to work on AMD outside of the Julia ecosystem, it's kind of a pain. So it's kind of 50-50. Some days I think, oh man, if I would have just written this in C or OpenCL or something, I could have had this done ages ago, right? But, you know, another part of my brain, you know, maybe the more rational part of the brain realizes that that's not exactly true, right? Like, I don't know how long it would have taken to do it in C or C++ because I haven't done it yet. And I'm sure if I did the switch, it would probably take longer for some reason. Are kernels just compute shaders, right? No graphics shaders, right? Yeah, so that's essentially what they are. They're compute shaders. There's like some mild differences between them if you really want to dig deep into the like the technical capabilities. Like compute shaders I don't know. Compute shaders, I don't think have access to shared memory. I don't remember all the details. I don't use compute shaders too much. I use compute kernels. And so like the way you access memory is probably slightly different if you're talking about like GLSL versus like everything else. Hey, Amaraz, I didn't think you'd be able to come during this time. I hope you're having a great day. My gosh, I am. I'm not speaking very well today, but hey, how you doing? It's been a long time since I've seen you on stream, and I'm happy to see you here, you know? Okay, let's go and see if CI has built. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to hop up here, conversation. I believe, okay, it's still building, but while it's still building, I'm just going to go ahead and mention the actual fix here so that I don't... Let me see this. Might fix, kernel abstractions, okay. Invoke latest thread run, spawn. So Valentine already has a PR up. Of course he already has a PR up. Okay, well let's just leave the PR as it is now, and I'll talk to Valentine about it in a few hours. You're free on Fridays, so that's that. Good. Well, at least you can join one day of the week. I said this earlier in stream, but I don't exactly know how often I'm going to be streaming. It really just depends on like when my kid is available and all that kind of stuff. Oh, when my kid is not available, when they're at daycare, and all of this. There's just a lot going on right now. So, okay. Sorry, I need to do better about like drinking like away from the microphone because then everyone can hear me like drinking. I understand it's a bit weird. Raising a child is no easy task. Just keep going, bro. You're probably doing awesome. I enjoy what you're doing. Well, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you say that. I guess before actually hopping into the Fractal animation engine proper and doing some real development with it, I've got a few other things to talk about. Again, because these are VODs on YouTube, I don't really intend to talk about this too much more outside of the stream. Like, we'll just be doing development. I'm not going to be reintroducing the Fractal animation engine every time, with the hope that I can just link people to this VOD and give them like a timestamp on this VOD to talk about what it is and how it works and all that kind of stuff. So let's first start by going through the rotating square example here. So like I said before, there is a set of functions, right? The iterative function system here that is generating the square. And then we have the additional question, which is how do I add another operation to this shape, right? And we have two different ways of doing it. One is incorporating it within the iterative function system itself, and the other is using it as more of a post-processing step. Let me go to a smear frame then. So a lot of people nowadays, when it comes to animation, they might not... How do I put this? So who here watches anime? That's my question. Great question. Yeah, this is exactly how I want to continue this conversation. But yeah, so my wife and I watch anime sometimes. To be honest, I don't watch too much anime. I'm more of a manga reader myself, which maybe puts me in even another like box of nerddom. I don't know, but it puts me in even another level of Japanese otaku-ness. But when I do watch anime, I spend a lot of time like looking at the animation itself. Like for example, if you watch, Bocchi the Rock, which is an anime that came out last season, they did a lot to kind of combine different animation like styles together. They had 3D animation, they had 2D animation, they had different 2D animation styles, all this kind of stuff. If you look at a Pixar film, you can clearly tell that this is different than a Ghibli film, right? Because Pixar is not anime, Ghibli is anime. But there's a little bit more to this story that I kind of want to unpack, and guys, if you're watching this as a VOD, you're in the comment section, furious about me messing something up, please correct me. Like I said at the start of stream, I'm very happy to be corrected about this type of stuff. But I kind of see animation in the US as a bit different than animation in Japan. Like the primary animator in Japan probably is Studio Ghibli. Like when you think of anime, when you think of animation from Japan, you think of probably Ghibli, like Princess Mononoke or Grave of the Fireflies, even though that wasn't done by Miyazaki. Or why can I not remember the main one, Chihiro? Chihiro, what is it actually called? Spirited Away in English. These are big animations that made a lot of money and did particularly well. When you think of animation in the US, there's a lot of key players. There's DreamWorks, there's Disney, but probably the number one animated group in the US in terms of movies is probably Pixar, right? They're the ones that continually push, or used to at the very least, continually push the boundary of what is possible in animation, right? Now, this actually kind of led to a very weird differentiation between like what happens in Japan versus what happens in the US, because the US was primarily focused on three-dimensional visualization, right? You know, Pixar, all these types of 3D films, right? Shrek, whatever. It kind of turned into this thing where the US became limited based on what you could do in 3D, right? And there's a lot of stuff you can do in 3D, and 3D is really nice because you can basically build an animation per model instead of building it per frame, and there's a lot of good advantages. But there's a lot of things in 2D that you do that you don't typically do in 3D. And so sometimes if you're watching an anime or something and you see like all of a sudden they added in a 3D model, you might notice that the 3D model looks a lot like a video game. Like you can kind of see the frames, one frame after another, right? And this is because a lot of times the 3D animation, it's not that people don't use smear frames, it's that they don't blend them in as well, as seamlessly as 2D does, right? And so you end up having this weird thing where you have this really clean, smooth, two-dimensional animation, and then when you add the 3D animation in, it looks jarring because it's done with a different engine and is not as cleanly represented frame to frame, right? So if you have an object and it's moving in space, physically that object moves here, here, here. It's going from one point to another point, right? That's what you see. That if you took a picture at each individual frame, you should in principle see the object in 3 different locations. But that's not exactly what happens when you actually put it on video, right? Because on video, what you'll see is actually a blur, right? When objects are moving. In a sense, this is just because of the limitations of the camera itself. But in another sense, that's how we perceive information, right? Smear frames are kind of pivotal to understanding like any form of animation, right? Because it's really useful to express that an object is moving from point A to point B, and that these intermediate frames are leading it from point A to point B. So the point of smear frames is essentially to stretch out the animation so the user is more likely to see it's moving from point A to point B, and it doesn't look like a bunch of frames stitched together. It looks like an animation. It looks like things are blended together more smoothly, right? And so one of the key reasons I've been really into the Fractal animation engine as a core component of Leos Labs moving forward is because you get the compute shaders, right? You can do that just fine. You can do all the other forms. Like, you know, I know how to implement ray tracing. I can do a lot of things with the Fractal animation engine because I'm building it up on my own. But the iterative function systems themselves allow me to not only draw an object, but also draw every transformation on that object, right? So if I want to do simple smears, if I want to more easily do an animation from point A to point B, I can just add in the transformation I want, and it doesn't have to be affine. It can be basically any transformation I want, right? That's why the swirled square example is, in my opinion, a really good example. It shows that you can do these post transformations and basically generate any transformed version of the object that you want without too much trouble. And in fact, basically no computational cost. It's a small cost, but basically none. So Western animation usually pursues technology and photorealism, while Japanese animation focuses on style and impact. It's good with Into the Spider-Verse, we see the reversal of that trend. Right, exactly. I was going to bring up Into the Spider-Verse, but I did kind of forget. That is one of those animations where it was done entirely in 3D, but then redrawn with 2D on top of it, so that it gives you that comic book aesthetic. Now, one thing that, okay, so I was watching Linus Tech Tips, LMG clips. I don't know, like they have a podcast. I don't know what the podcast is called, but he actually had a particularly interesting point when it came to Into the Spider-Verse that I actually agree with, but I hate that I agree with it, right? He said that Into the Spider-Verse, because it was limited to 24 or 30 FPS or something like that, was very difficult to watch. Because it was very difficult to see the transition, or the transition between frames was not clear enough. And so it made it very jarring, because if you're someone who plays a lot of video games, you're probably very used to seeing like video game clipping and stuff like that. So if you're used to like 60 frames per second in a video game, right, going back down to 30 frames per second, or I don't know, less than that, 20 frames per second, it looks really jarring, right? People know the difference between the frames per second, right? FPS values, right? And he was just saying Into the Spider-Verse looks very visually impressive, but because the frames per second are so low, it means that you actually can physically see the difference between each frame, and it looks kind of like a slideshow, right? Anyway, gotta love those 3D anime horse carriages. Yeah, exactly that, and cars and stuff like that. If you watch Spy Times Family, whatever, you know what I mean. Like the cars look very out of place, you know. But yeah, my point is that like, a lot of times the reason why you can see like everything looks like a slideshow is not because, how do I put this? Every frame in an animation should not be a painting. That's my argument, right? Every frame in the animation, if you pause Naruto at some moment and you see, I don't know, Naruto's face like contorted in a very weird way, that's not bad animation. That's a specific style that was chosen to make, the weight of Naruto's punches or whatever more like impactful, right? And so there are some frames in an animation that should definitely be a painting. They should be very gorgeous. They should be like very like beautiful stills, right? But not everything needs to be that. Some things need smears. Some things need visual impact, right? And balancing that, every frame should be a painting versus, some frames should be contorted to really express the gravity of the situation is very difficult for animation. So anyway, that's my weird intro to the Fractal animation engine. I know I've been super scattered, but the point is that like the one big advantage of the Fractal animation engine is that not only do you have the ability to draw simple shapes, but you also have the ability to draw every transformation on those shapes, including non-affine transformations, which means, if I want to draw like, I don't know, like a little character swimming or something like that, I can very easily like do like a sine wave on top of like an existing character or something like that. And it should, in principle, every transformation should be available to me. So I should be able to draw like really crisp and clean animations. The drawback, though, is that it's going to be very difficult for me to draw like actual people, like characters and stuff like that. That's going to be very difficult because creating the initial iterative function system is going to be hard. I've got ways around that, things that I want to try, but I'm not entirely convinced any of them are going to work. So this is kind of a future process or a future project for I don't know, the future me to deal with. I'm sorry, again, I'm quite scattered. So let me just show you some simple code here showing how it works. So again, I think the whole example code is down here, just the code, there we are. Essentially what I've done is I have created a ball, I've defined it as a circle, I've created some fractal inputs. These are inputs that will be changing dynamically with time, and I've said it's going to be scale, which is the size of the object, and theta, which is going to be an angle, right? And then basically I put them all into a vector. Now, this API is probably going to change in the near future. I don't know what it's going to look like, but this is something that I want to fix a bit. Then basically I grab the smear frame, which is just stretch and rotate, which just stretches the ball, rotates it a bit. And then we say, okay, it has some sort of scale, some sort of theta value. Again, these are fractal inputs, so they can change with time. And we just say, okay, here's our smear transformation. It's going to be a combination between our original Hutchinson value, which is going to be, our ball. Wait. We have, I'm so sorry, I'm being stupid here. The smear transformation here is literally just turning the smear into a fractal operator and going from there. Hey, Gibbous, how are you doing? And then all we have to do is combine the two of them together. We have, the original Hutchinson operator, the ball, and then we have the smear transformation on the ball. And then every frame we change the position of the circle, and we just kind of also change the smear transformation so that it works with the object. And at the end, you get a very simple visualization that just looks like that. I realize it's kind of a bit lame. I get that. It's like one of the simplest smears you could possibly do. So I do totally understand that you might be looking at this and being like, okay, well, this is kind of, it's not very clear. But, if we were to do this with like a real animation, I think you'd see the benefit of this. I'm waking up. Wait, oh yeah, right, because it's like 8 in the morning, I think, for people on the East Coast. 9 in the morning for people on the East Coast? I don't know. Okay, so that is most of the information I need to talk about for the Fractal animation engine. Let me see if this built. I believe, oh, it didn't build. That is unfortunate. Okay, let's see what broke. Yeah, let me see what broke here. I'm going to have to keep working on this a bit later. Are you not going to tell me what broke? Okay, missing comma. What? Fractal flame line 57, missing comma. Am I that big of an idiot? Okay, VI source, run fractal flame 57. I think I am an idiot, but I'm not entirely sure how. Let me go over here and let me try building it again. Using revise. Oh, misspelled revise. Sure, yeah, I'll add it in. And then using Fay, and let's see what happens. Again, guys, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, anything like that, feel free to let me know. Using Fay. All right, this should break then. If it broke on CI, it should break here as well. But I don't want to, I kind of sidetracked myself finishing up the conversation from Wednesday. I think it's probably better to just hop into the actual stuff I wanted to do today. Good news, it broke. So let's go ahead and go to line 57. It's right here. What did I miss? I'm missing a comma somewhere. So we have positions, n, the operator, the color operator, the probability set, symbols, the function numbers, values, layers, greens, reds, blues, alphas, frame, bounds, bin width, layer dot parameter, numbing. What am I missing? Is it this? No. Yeah, what am I missing? Okay. Oh, I'm an idiot. How did that even happen? Okay, I got it. Although I probably don't need to print this H1 symbols anymore. I can probably just remove that. Yeah, let's just remove that for now. Yeah, that should be fine. So go and add that in. Let's do git add source dot git status git commit dash m fixing build error git push origin updates. That should build on CI. It should be okay. Is bitmap support on the table or geometric vector? Yeah, bitmap support's kind of already there. When you say bitmap, I mean image support is already there. So you can already load in images. And the way I do it right now is like, let's say you have an image. I'm just going to draw this very willy-nilly, and I'm hoping that you understand. So I'm just going to draw like a little smiley face here. There you go. There's your smiley face, right? And then I'm just going to draw a small grid on top of it. So here's your pixels, right? The way I have it set right now is that it doesn't allow for super resolution is what I mean. So essentially this is split up into a series of pixels, right? So if you were to ping this pixel in here, you'd say, okay, well this pixel is going to be, I don't know, let's say the eyes were colored in, so this pixel would be pink or something. And this pixel over here would be black, right? And this pixel would be pink, for example. So the way I've done this is I've made it so you read in the image. And if you want to, you could do a higher resolution, right? And if you do the higher resolution, it's just going to kind of read the image as a histogram. So that means that this entire block of pixels are all going to be pink, if that makes sense. So you can like scale images and stuff like that, but it's done very rudimentary, right? Rudimentarily, is that a word? It's done in a way that isn't very clean right now. But yeah, image support is already in there. There's also other things that I want to do. So the way it works right now is you use the iterative function system to define the object, let's say a circle, but then you actually use a compute shader to do the inside of the circle. So if I want to draw like a face, I actually have a separate separate shader essentially that basically can project some sort of shading onto the object, right? So if you do a square and you go over here and you look at the square example that we had a second ago, swirled square, here we are. So if you look at this, each of the colors in here is technically a shader. It's just a naive shader. So red, pink, blue, green. And again, because you have any transformation of the object, you can, again, transform those shaders as you see fit. So because this is essentially a shader language, you can essentially write it as a shader language. So if you want to use it for like ray tracing or something like that, we could, in principle, make provide a window, right, that specifically, this object is being ray traced through. So you can kind of compose things together any way that you want. How does it look more complex shape, like a concave one? How does it look on a more complex shape, like a concave one? So right now, depending on the iterative function system that you put in, you can. So if you have a square, for example, you can do a number of different things. The first thing you can do is take the square and force it into a concave shape and then shade it, right? If you want to do it that way. But typically what you'll do is you're going to take the object, put the shader on top, and then smear it, right? So for example, if you were to smear, here, I'll try to draw it out. So if you were to smear the face, right? Make it look elongated, the eyes would also be smeared right now, is how it's typically done. And yes, it looks a bit weird. But because you're trying to smear objects, I thought this makes sense. But you could also do it the other way around, where you draw the object and then you do the smear, and then after that's done, you then color it. So you could also smear it like this if you wanted to, I guess. So the eyes are not smeared as well. I try to make it as composable as possible so you can kind of do whatever you want with it without too much trouble. The shader language and stuff is a bit funky. I'm I'm kind of new. What's Fractal about being able to apply any transformation to objects? Is it that the objects are built on top of each other in a fractal way? Is that we use iterative function systems to generate the object? So an iterative function system is at its heart a fractal. So here, let's just go and show this over here again one more time. And let me go to the algorithm archive and go to iterative function systems here. I'll go ahead and link this in chat. So because we're using iterative function systems at its core, each object is itself a fractal, right? It's just we add an additional shader to it, and then because it's written in the iterative function system format, we're allowed to do any transformation on top of it. I feel like smearing more a complex shape than a circle might make a better visual. Maybe pentagon or a star or something that's non-trivial to distort. I mean, to be honest, you're right. But also I don't have the iterative function system right now for those. So it's kind of like, yeah, I could very easily generate a star or something if I wanted to and do it. But I'm also, again, just very much starting this project right now. I know I've been working on it for a year, but like I'm finally getting visuals from it right now. So we're very far from like being able to do like super complex things with it. I'm hoping to get there, but we're not there yet. Okay. So let me check this PR one more time because I think the latest thing should build just fine. Let's go up here, go to pull requests. It looks like 2 of 3 tasks have built, so yeah. Oh, never mind, I'm wrong. It's still building, that's okay. It doesn't matter too much. I can wait for this after stream. Okay, so there's a couple things I wanted to work on today. One is just introducing what the Fractal Animation Engine is and how and why smear frames are important. Now, there's a couple other things I want to talk about. So, first things first, because this is one of my first visuals, and you guys are going to laugh at this. I am working on a very simple concept of what a person could look like if you were to abstract away all of their limbs and basically their entire facial structure and everything else. And it's just called a lolly person, lolly being lollipop. So basically the person looks like a lollipop. I'm going to go ahead and show that branch off now. So let's go and do Control D here. Git checkout lolly person. What? Oh, lolly people. Okay, and now what I want to do is Julia, and I'm going to use 1.7 for this, double dash project, dash T12. And then I'm just going to do using, oh no, I have to remove the manifest and all that kind of stuff. Remove manifest. Let's do it again. Instantiate. Again, this is because I'm switching between Julia 1.7 and 1.9. It is what it is, you know. While it's doing this, again, if you guys have comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, feel free to let me know. I do fully recognize that, you know, I'm kind of doing... I'm live streaming on YouTube as opposed to Twitch. I typically live stream on Twitch, but on YouTube, again, you get free VODs. Honestly, the replay is better because you could, like, for example, let's say you have to go to the bathroom or something. You can just pause the YouTube video and come back to it, and then play back the part that you missed at like 1.5 times speed and catch up to everyone during the stream. That's really cool, and it's something you can't do on Twitch. And so there's like some vague advantages for using YouTube, as well as just the ads. I don't want to put ads on my videos. And so I don't have ads on these videos. So basically there's no way to monetize my live stream, right? And that's okay. That's how I want it to be, you know? And so there's just some stuff about YouTube that's kind of a bit nicer. And I'm just curious to hear you as a current watcher of the stream, or as someone who may be in the YouTube comments watching the VOD for the stream. If you guys appreciate these live streams or not, feel free to let me know. I'm quite interested to see, I'm interested to use the entire YouTube ecosystem, you know, YouTube Shorts, YouTube Live, YouTube videos themselves. And yeah, I'm very interested to hear if you guys are okay with the live streams. If you feel, you know, Ken Zhu is saying it's too intrusive, but honestly, I'm intruding on all of your guys' subscription feed in a way that you typically wouldn't see, right? And so am I being too intrusive? Should I be doing this on a second channel? I do have a second channel specifically for Leos Labs Live. Maybe I should be using that. I don't know. People have to sit through 10 ads before even able to watch the stream. Yeah, so there's a little caveat there, right? That is only true for partnered and affiliated streamers, right? So recently I actually removed my affiliate link or whatever. I removed my affiliation with Twitch. And if you're not affiliated with Twitch, you're not technically allowed to make money off the platform. And because of that, you know, as long as you're not affiliated, people don't have to sit through ads on your videos, right? So that was the reason why I removed my affiliate status with Twitch. So people could just pop in, without without an ad. I thought that was incredibly important because, so here's something I learned recently. Let me get some water, and I'm going to talk about something that maybe I shouldn't. No, I should. I don't know. I always like it when people go on tangents about YouTube and talk about things about the system that they probably didn't know. Okay. We do this. No, that. There we go. Hello. So YouTube, right? YouTube has ads, right? So what do you do when you watch a YouTube video? You click on a YouTube video, and then what happens? Typically, you see a YouTube ad. Now, this isn't always the case. Sometimes you don't see an ad, but a lot of the times you do, right? So what do you do when you see a YouTube ad? I don't know about you, but I never sit through ads. I click the refresh button like 10 times. I'll refresh the page again, refresh the page again, to the point that I've refreshed the page for more times, and I've waited longer to watch the video just so I don't have to sit through an ad, right? And if a mid-roll ad ever hits my screen, I immediately go out of the video. I'm not watching the rest of that video. I just do not, I'm done. I'm not watching that video. I'm moving on with my life. No video is worth a mid-roll ad. But the current YouTube ecosystem is really, really pushing people to put more and more advertising in front of people's faces, right? So you see a lot of mid-roll ads where you typically wouldn't see them, and they're becoming, in a way, more invasive, right? Intrusive, like Ken was saying. But he was talking about Twitch ads, but still. And so what I've been trying to figure out, right, is the ratio of people who will watch your video versus the ratio, okay, there's certain people who will watch your video regardless of whether there's an ad on it. I'm not one of those people. I probably will not watch a video if it has an ad. And so the number of people who skip out of a video because there's an ad, right? So there's an easy way to check this, right? So you have the click-through rate, right? The number of people who see your thumbnail and continue watching, right? They see your thumbnail and click through to watch the video, right? That's called the click-through rate, right? If there's an ad on the video, the click-through rate will go down. However, the average watch time on the video will go up. And what I realized was ads are incredibly useful for YouTubers because what ends up happening is you've had to maybe refresh the page 10 times to watch the video. You've had to sit through an ad. You had to do something to watch the video, right? And so now you feel like you've paid for this this video in some way. You're psychologically, you think this. And so you're going to continue watching the video for longer than you would if there was no ad, right? And so what ends up happening is if you don't have an ad on the system, you'll get more clicks. But if you do have an ad, people will watch it for longer, right? And the YouTube algorithm promotes watch time, not clicks anymore, right? Clicks was like 10 years ago, right? And so it's this weird thing where, like, you know, YouTube recognized that, hey, people watch videos for longer if there's ads. Let's just promote that so we can send more ads out. It's like kind of a very weird nuance to the system that most people didn't know was happening. But it's super weird to me because you'll see a YouTube ad, and then immediately after you'll say, oh, this video is sponsored by NordVPN, more about them at the end of the sketch, or something like this. And so it's like, you just watched an ad to watch more ads in the video, to see a mid-roll ad in the middle of the video. Like Linus Tech Tips, they put so many ads in their videos, it's insane, you know? But I don't know. I've kind of been realizing that the true way to make money on YouTube is actually not by using the advertising system entirely. You get more clicks without ads to begin with, right? So if you could use that to like directly market your own products, like that's probably the number one way to go. I think that's the way to make the most money. I mean, that's what like Mr. Beast is doing now and all the big YouTubers. Anyway, that was a random ramble session that I guess most people probably don't care about because you probably don't care about YouTube. But like as someone who's been making videos for 10 years and been kind of watching the ecosystem grow for a while, it's kind of one of those things that I've been noticing. Why not just use ad block? I used to use ad block when I used Firefox, but now that I'm using Qt browser instead, I mean, truth be told, I shouldn't be watching YouTube videos anyway. So every time I see an ad, it's just my way to get off the platform. And so I'm kind of using ads as like one of those things to get me off the platform so that I actually start doing productive things. So it's not the worst thing in the world. YouTube ads are getting worse. Good thing premium is stupid cheap right now. I've never seen an ad on YouTube. Brave. Okay, you guys are right. You can use ad block. You have YouTube premium. There's a bunch of ways to get around ads. That's totally fair. But you know, in the reason you're watching ads, it's not like you want to watch ads. The reason you're watching them is because it supports the content creator a bit, you know. Still has ad block on PC though, useful for other stuff. Yeah, so I think, I used to use uBlock Origin is what I used on Firefox. It's fine, like it's not a big deal. But I don't know, I kind of feel like I don't want to be so far disconnected from like what my grandmother sees when she goes on YouTube, you know. I don't want to like have all these extensions on to make YouTube better. I kind of feel like I want to know what people see when they watch my video, right? And if I had ad block on, I might not have realized like how intrusive the little like pop-up ads are, or any of this kind of stuff. It's useful for me to know what people see when they click on the video. And also, again, ads are kind of one of those like things that help me get off the platform if I feel like I'm on it for too long. Also, give me just 1 second. Sorry about that. Wait. Where am I? 1 second. What am I doing with my life? I think this is the button I want to press. Yes. Okay. I've completely forgotten all my keybinds. See? I'm sorry. The truth is, like, I have to blow my nose every once in a while. Like, I told you, I was sick for the entire, like, past month and a half, right? I still have, like, nasal congestion and everything else. So I've been really struggling just to, like, kind of... the streams are, like, causing the nasal stuff to come out again, so I have to like blow my nose every I don't know, like 30 minutes or so. Okay, so let's go back here. Oh my goodness, I've already been streaming for 1 hour and 15 minutes. I've done a lot. The message didn't get to you. Uh-oh, wait 1 second. This might be one of those top chat things. Let me do live chat again. Could you send it again? Sorry about that. I know this is a stupid question, but I'm gonna try live chat instead of top chat. I don't really know what the difference is, but maybe it was like taken over. Gibbous had this issue as well yesterday where he tried to send a message and it just didn't send for some reason. I'm not entirely sure what YouTube is doing. I will say Twitch chat is way better than YouTube chat in terms of like just the experience for the user, right? I've just sent it again. Is it being flagged? Like, is there something wrong? Like, what? Add a reaction? No, I don't want to add a reaction. Why did I click that button? Huh. Start Q&A, start poll. I don't think I can even do anything about this. I'm so sorry. I have no idea. It still didn't get you. I still did not see anything over here. I've been playing games and emulators using retro achievements. Oh, that's something that I heard a lot of people are doing recently. I think it's quite cool, actually. I've been playing a few retro games as well when I have time. I mean, just Digimon World, really. It's not really that much, but I still have, like, I have some stuff I want to do in Digimon World. It's one of those games that like I keep wanting to play more of. My issue yesterday was that YouTube was auto-moderating the message somehow and removing it. Yeah, I need to figure out how the chat works. There's something weird about YouTube chat that is not true for Twitch chat. Okay, we precompiled everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and do include examples. 1 second. Examples lolly person. All right, there we go. This gives me an example via examples, lolly person. And I guess I'm just going to do the blink. Yeah, I'm just going to do the blink. I think if I do blink for 10 frames, it should be fine. So let's just go ahead and do that. Blink number of frames. How many frames do I have? 10? I guess. So let's do lolly example. And we're going to do 1,000 by 1,000. And we're going to do transform type. It's going to be equal to blink. And then num frames is equal to 10. All right. Okay. Hello there. What am I supposed to run then? It's supposed to be num particles, num interactions. Num frames doesn't. Oh, underscores. Of course, I'm using underscores. All right. Try that. All right. Should build. Give it a second. YouTube is censoring critical messages. I'm so sorry. Long time ago, not a long time ago, back when COVID was like, a really big thing. It's still a big thing. Just for the record, still a big thing. But back before the vaccines and everything, and YouTube was like adding like these messages underneath all of the like COVID conspiracy videos saying like, hey, you should probably know, like, get more information about COVID, click here, this type of thing. There was this big hullabaloo. There was a big like movement within certain circles to kind of ban YouTube, because like they were banning all the users and all this kind of stuff, and it got to me, there's something about active communication, like active science communication, that I feel like, there's a difference between censoring somebody, as YouTube was apparently doing, but there's a difference between censoring someone and actually providing links to learn more information, which is what YouTube was actually doing. They did take down a few videos that were like actively against the public interest, like would literally hurt people if they followed this, but it is what it is. What is a lolly person? I'll show you what a lolly person is. You're going to love this. MPV out.mp4 loop. Okay, here. Oh, why is the eyeball so small? Why is the head so big? Um, huh. I messed up somehow, and I really don't fully understand how I messed up. Oh, maybe because the height was off? Let me try something. Lolly example. Height is 0.5. Oh, the eyes are not... Well, that's something I got to figure out. But let me just do it this way. The eyes are not scaling appropriately with the height. That's something that I need to fix. But I'll show it to you one more time. So here's MPV loop, that MP and loop 0, whatever. Okay, this is a lolly person. It is my simplest representation of what a person could potentially look like. I actually use it in a lot of my videos. It's just been a while since I've had to represent people. And so it is literally just, you know, like it's just a guy, here he's blinking, and that's it. For my first couple videos I'm using with the Fractal animation engine, I actually intend to use this character a lot, just because I can't draw better characters, and I need to get a lot of the rest of the stuff for the Fractal animation engine working. So here's my stupid blinking animation. I know it's dumb, but this is a lolly person. That's all it is. It's like a lollipop, but it's a person. So that's what I've got. I use it for a lot of videos. So I need to, there's now one more thing I have on the list of things that I need to do today, which is I've got to figure out how to make the eyes scale with the head. It's going to be a mess. I'm so sorry. There's a whole political demographic whose MO is breaking terms of service and being rude and uncivil. Yeah, I do kind of feel like that's true. I feel like there's a lot of people who are just being they know they're being mean. They're being rude and just chumps in general, but it is what it is. And the trick is that when people call them out for being rude, they say, help, we're being attacked. Yeah. I have an idea how to make it female. Wait, you're talking about just like having like little, like eyelashes on the eyebrow or something? Yeah, I've considered that as well. Interestingly, I didn't get Gibbous' first message there. Okay, so we're all agreed that YouTube chat is not as good as Twitch chat then. I don't know what to do in this situation. We could like get another, I don't know, I could use an IRC client or something in the background. By the way, guys, I spent so long rambling, as I suppose is typical for a Leos Lab stream, that I am a little bit behind where I wanted to get today. So basically I can only stream for another like 10 minutes. I have to close at 2:30. So I think what I'm going to do today, since we did actually clear up some stuff with the PR I put forward on Wednesday, I'm not unhappy with the progress we were making. But I do want to figure out this eyeball thing, because they should scale with the height. So if I change this height to 0.25, let's do that. And let's modify this, and let's do just brow. All right, let's try that. And this should give us an image. So out.png. Right. Yeah, the eyeballs don't scale at all. Oh, that's super funny. Wait. Let's increase the size of let's change this to 7.5. Oh man, I messed up when I did that, didn't I? And you see some issues with the rendering method. I was actually hoping to tackle the rendering method issues today as well, but you definitely see some issues here where like you can see some dots and stuff here. That's something I need to fix, but I'm not quite there to fix it yet. Oh boy. That's kind of funny. Very big head, very small eyeballs. Okay, so what are we going to do then? I need to change... How do I do this exactly? Let's go ahead and take a look at the Fractal user method I used to generate the eyes. Let's go into VI, source, objects, lolly, people. So the way I have this done is, like I said, we've got we have essentially the circle, which is an iterative function system. The circle is generated via Fractal, and then on top of that, we put on an eyeball, right? I kind of said this was a shader before, and it's not technically wrong to call it a shader, but it's actually a shader on top of a shader, because the black face, here, let me just show you again. The black face is the shader. So the color is black, and that's the original shader, the skin shader, the body shader. And then on top of that, I've superimposed one more shader, which is the eyeball shader. So let's go ahead and see what I can do here. So we're going to do, I think it's just called simple eyes. Here we are. And let me see what we have here. So we've got the head position, the size is times 0.5. So how do we define the size? The size is going to be equal to height times 0.04. I must just not be reading in the height as a variable here for the simple eyes. So let me go ahead and fix that now. I think the only thing I need to fix is in the example itself. Simple eyes. I need to add it so the height is equal to height. And that should fix it. So let me go ahead and do that for all of these simple eyes and make sure it fixes what fixes it, essentially. Let's put this here. And then we also need to do it here. I'll fix the spacing in just a second. There we go. And this, I think, in principle should fix it. But we'll see. I also need to modify this so it's on different lines just because otherwise my OCD will get me. I need to stop saying that. It's not OCD, you know. I have OCD-like tendencies, but that doesn't necessarily mean I have OCD. Let's do a lolly example with the brow type. And hopefully... didn't work. Yeah, that didn't work at all. But maybe it's because I'm an idiot and I need to run it one more time. Hey, come on. No, it still didn't work. He's still have a very big head and very little eyes. Okay. So what do we have here? We have, did I forget to include it appropriately? That could have also happened. That could have happened. Oh, by the way, in my process of becoming a computer vegan, I switched from Chrome to WaterFox. What is WaterFox? I've never heard of WaterFox before. Let's check that one out. WaterFox. Yeah, it must be a variation on Firefox, right? The best way to browse the web today. WaterFox gives you a sane way to browse the web built with you, the user, in mind. Tracking protection. Offline. What? Offline machine learning powered translations. Private browsing. No telemetry. Okay, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. I mean, this seems nice. I assume it's a fork of Firefox. But the only thing... Okay, fair enough. But cleaned up. I understand. Yeah, there's some things with Firefox that like I wish were cleaner. So I do totally understand why you'd want that. Let's go ahead and include it one more time just to make sure. And let's run it one more time just to make sure. All right, I'm going to take a look at the output. The eyeball has not changed. Now I don't know what to do. Did I forget to write this? I did not. I wrote it. Okay, now I don't know. So the height... Let me put an @print. No, what do I do here? So we go here. And I'm going to try to figure out why the eyeballs are not scaling with the height. So if we go down to the simple eyes function in here, it does read in the height as a variable, right? And the size is based on the height over here, height times 0.04. I was using Vivaldi, but I found it too unstable on Linux and had quite a few issues. I'm going to say something that might be controversial, but I have found that a lot of browsers have a lot of issues in Linux. I know I'm a Linux like advocate. I say everyone should use Linux, including their grandmothers. But at the same time, I definitely have had issues with most browsers on Linux, specifically those that are like, not Chromium based. What are they called? Like there's a particular set of browsers like LuaKit, Qt browser, the ones that are, there's a name for them. But like they're kind of like super simple browsers, I don't have too many issues, although updating is really annoying. Oh, really? Updating is an issue. I never had issues updating. However, I do have an issue updating Discord. Discord is just super annoying. Like every single day, is Qt browser Electron? I don't think they're Electron. But Electron apps, they cause me pain. Discord in particular. Like every once in a while, like I don't know, once a month or something like this, all of a sudden Discord's like, hey, there's a new version available. You should be using this new version, but it's not yet available in the Arch repositories, even though it's bleeding edge. So I have to go and like install the new version from the website. Like who installs things from the website nowadays? This is so like archaic. It's like ancient technology here, And so like, I don't know, it just kind of gets me, WebKit. WebKit is the one I was thinking of. That's correct. WebKit. But yeah, so then I have to download Discord from the website and like install it in like a separate build directory. And then I have to set it up so that I call the correct Discord version. It's just a pain. It's just a pain. So who installs things from the... No, come on. I don't believe you for a second that Windows users still install things from websites. That cannot happen. It must have a package manager. Like, I mean, we're talking about like 1980s technology here. Like, this is not like something new. You should, the PPA, Debian-based, is not available anymore, so I have to install. Why? I actually find that kind of silly. I'm sorry. Like, I have not I haven't used Windows in a long time. I just assumed that like as of Windows 10 or something, you had a package manager. Has a package manager now? It's called the Microsoft Store. We all hate it. Wait, why? Or rather, not very. Wait. I'm actually genuinely curious. Like, there's the App Store in Apple. It works fine. Like, I haven't had any issues with it. I mean, it's not the best, like, for development tools and stuff like that. Like, usually people use Homebrew or something like this, but it's fine. Yeah. Let's see. There's also Winget and Chocolatey, but I'm too dumb to try those. Oh, yeah, Microsoft stole Nougat as Winget. I don't know what any of this stuff is, to be honest. I'm very outside of the Microsoft loop. I just know Windows 8 I liked. But I haven't used any Windows version since Windows Vista, Windows bloatware stealth updates. I don't know anything about this. I'm so sorry. But I do know that, like, I liked Windows 8 because you could press the start button, type in anything you want. You could generally find what you needed. I think Windows 10 and since then have kind of kept that Windows 8 feature where you can just press the start button and then, like, figure out everything that you want. So, like, I would argue that Windows Vista was a huge upgrade from Windows XP. And Windows 8 was like, Windows 7 was good, but somehow not as good as Vista. And then Windows 8 was probably the best version of Windows, I would say, that I ever had to deal with. And I don't think I ever touched Windows 10, maybe once on my friend's laptop. Literally, Windows 10 ships with Candy Crush via Microsoft Store. And I only just figured out how to uninstall it. Oh, it sounds like an old grandma is just like, she's like, oh, I like my Candy Crush on. Why Candy Crush? Don't get me wrong. Like, I like Candy Crush. It's a fun game, but unfortunately it's not part of the kernel package, is it? Okay, let me try to figure out this I thing. So we have the R2, it's going to be size times 0.5. So size should be dependent on, size should be dependent on the height because we define it here as height times 0.4. And then we have the head position is going to be negative height times 1/8, 0, 0. It looks to me like height is not being appropriately read in. Like it's not being set properly for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. Windows 10 has better looking from the UX perspective, but yeah, bloat. Yeah, so Windows 8 was like trying to be Ubuntu, Like, so Ubuntu had this like whole Ubuntu One thing, which was honestly really, really cool. You could buy a cell phone, and the cell phone would have like all the Ubuntu things that you want. And you could literally just plug this into a dock and it would become a desktop. This idea of having a phone that turns into a desktop has been like, I've been wanting that for years. Like, I would love to have a phone that, like, literally just get a laptop skin. You have a laptop skin and just have like a sheath on the back of it that you just plug the phone into. Like, you don't need a laptop and a phone nowadays. You can basically do everything you want on a phone. So why not just have the phone, use some sort of like, actually useful architecture, plug it directly in to some sort of like laptop port or something like that. Carry that around. I don't know, like. I don't use phones that often, but if you gave me a phone that could turn into a laptop or a phone that can turn into a tablet like they're doing nowadays, I'm kind of interested in those ideas because like phones are kind of I don't really have a use for them, right? Like I don't understand why people use them outside of like two-factor authentication, but tablets and laptops, I definitely understand why people need these, So if you give me a phone that can adequately transform into one, I'm in, Windows Pro, Candy Crush. Tell me how Windows is a more professional OS than Linux. Windows 8 was trying to be Microsoft phone. Windows 11 had the dock. Right, that's what I was trying to say. Like the Windows 8 like whole unified experience was actually kind of an interesting move, and I was interested. I would like, if it worked out, I could see it really working out in Microsoft's favor. My phone has 3 purposes: Reddit, reading novels, and calling. Yeah, so basically, my phone is just a two-factor authentication app with GPS. That's it. That's what my phone is, And I'll be honest, GPS is incredibly useful, and two-factor authentication is incredibly useful. But I don't really use it for much else than that. I've been using it a bit more recently for Reddit because like sometimes my kid's sleeping and won't fall asleep if you like put him down, so I have to hold him, and I don't really have anything to do, so I'll go through on my phone. But I don't know. I'm unironically switching to Linux, part because Microsoft is abandoning the taskbar start menu look in favor of a GNOME or Mac OS look. So you're just going to go to GNOME? No, you're probably using Cinnamon or something like that. I don't know if I should buy a smartwatch. Anyone tried Pine Time? Ooh, that sounds interesting. And anything from Pine is interesting. I use my phone simply for texting and listening to music, or sometimes read the news. The taskbar start menu look, they pioneers, by the way. That's fair. the real utility didn't come until you could press the Windows key, the super key, or whatever it's called, and like you just type in anything you want. The equivalent of pressing Control Space on a Mac or Command Space on a Mac, where you can just type in whatever you want and you get that application. That's the useful thing that Microsoft added in Windows 8, which has been, I would argue, is probably one of the best things they've ever done. It's like $25 in the US, 64 euro here. Why? I mean, especially because euro is like heftier than US dollars. I mean, that's like almost 75 US dollars for something that's the same, or 25 US dollars in the US. I'm going to try turning the terminal off and on. Let me just turn the Julia shell on and off again using revise. I might have just forgot to use revise last time using Fay. Then we're going to do include. 1 second. Give it a second. It does take a second to recompile. This is one of the big problems with Julia, that most people pretend it doesn't exist, but definitely exists. Include lolly person, lolly example. See what this does. It's probably going to have the same problem, and actually I don't really know how to fix it. So that's why I'm kind of like dragging my feet a bit, because I genuinely have no clue what I'm supposed to do here. All right, give it a second. Sales tax plus tariff, I guess. Yeah, so I hear the VAT tax or whatever is actually quite a big deal. Now the eyes are still small. Oh, what do? The eyes are small, but they're dependent on the height. The height is changing here. Is it because... Let me check something in Julia. Maybe I'm misunderstanding how Julia works as a language. Function, check. And I'm just going to have here hello equals 1. Val is equal to hello times 0.5. All right, and then I'm going to do print line val. All right, end. All right, so now I'm going to do check, and I'm going to say hello equals 2. Right, okay, that's what it should do, right? I just had to make sure, because what I was afraid of was somehow, because I have the keyword argument, height, I thought maybe the keyword argument was not being properly set or something, I don't know. Okay, so then let's go over here, simple eyes, all right, and we're going to say height is equal to 0.5. Okay, so let me go ahead and mess around here. So head position is equal to negative height times 1. Divided by 8. Am I misreading that? Simple eyes. Go down here. Head position is negative height. Oh, obviously it's 1 divided by 8. But for some reason the parentheses here has been... Yeah, you're right. I don't know why I'm doing a multiplication by 1. I can just divide by 8. That's fine. Let's see. Taxes and tariffs. Leo's off topic. Is pouring milk into coffee a fractal? Is pouring milk into coffee a fractal? You can make a fractal that looks like that, but I mean, unless you're talking about maybe characterizing the turbulence or something in a fractal-like way, I don't really know. I would not classify milk into coffee as a fractal. Pine stuff looks cool, but the value proposition isn't really there. Also, there's a hacker version. The hacker's version is not available here in the EU, of course. Yeah, I mean, now that I live in Europe, I realize there's a lot of things that are hard to get in the EU. You know, almost certain pouring milk into coffee is fluid dynamics, right? So what I was saying was there could be a way to like somehow discuss fractals in terms of the turbulence generated by when you pour the milk into coffee, maybe, but it's kind of it's a bit of a stretch, I would say. So let me double check here. So is the height being appropriately set? So height times 0.5, expression keyword ellipticity, height is equal to 0.5. So height is being set to 0.5 appropriately. I think I'm going to try something stupid here, and I'm just going to do an @print. Height. This is not going to work out, is it? No way. Okay, it's pre-compiling. Give it a second. I mean, a fractal is something that... Okay, so we do know the height is being set correctly. Good. I mean, a fractal is something that has details at every level of zoom, so probably a fractal. Well, no, that's kind of a misconception of fractals, right? Also, I need to quit this. Stop. Please stop. Julia, don't... I knew this was going to happen. I mean, I'm running like 1,000 times 1,000, so I'm printing 0.75 a million times. So clearly it was going to do that, but I don't know, I just did it anyway. So a common misconception with fractals is that it's defined by its self-similarity, but that's more of a product of fractals as opposed to its actual definition, right? Its actual definition is usually defined in a number of different ways. Like, for example, an iterative function system, calling that a fractal is not necessarily true, right? Because there's like a rigorous definition. I don't actually know what the rigorous definition is, but I do know that self-similarity is a feature, not like the definition itself, right? And so, yeah, fractals are usually meant as like a measurement. I think it's like anything like, oh gosh, I don't know the actual definition here. It's like anything like power of 0.5 or something like that where you can zoom in. I don't know. Okay, I don't know what I'm talking about. There was like a video by 3 Blue and Brown who talked about this. I say self-similar. I said details. Okay, that could be fair. That could be fair. Maybe I was digging too deeply into what you said. Okay, so we have R2, we have ellipticity, we have, so the size here should then be, yeah, let me just try this one more time. So I'm going to do simple eyes, height 0.5. Okay, so height's equal to 0.5, and then we have the ellipticity. Wait, what do I have here? I'm looking for the inter-eye distance or something. Inter-eye distance is going to be height times 0.075. Should be fine. I'm going to read an article about fractals on Wikipedia article earlier. Yeah, I should have read it. I don't know. I think the definition is that there is a detail at arbitrary high zoom levels. I don't think that milk and coffee has details at every level of zoom. Well, I mean, reality has details at every level of zoom. I mean, like if you zoom in far enough, you're going to get atoms. If you zoom in far enough, you're going to get quarks. If you zoom in further, you get whatever quarks are made of, goop, I guess. I guess there is some scale where like you don't get details if you go far enough, but we physically can't resolve that far, like that small, So I think that's kind of what Amaras was getting at. All right, well, let's just keep looking at this. So why? Okay. So how does this work? We have the size times 0.5. So in principle, okay, let me take a look at the example again. I'm sorry, guys, I'm kind of floundering a bit here. So we're generating the I operator here, which is just a set of simple i's at some location, which is going to be equal to the I location. And then we're saying the height is equal to height. So it should be 0.5. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to print out the I operator here, just to make sure that like we're not doing something stupid. So let me print that out. So we're going to do print line I operator. All right, and let's see what we get. So I'm going to do include one more time, and then I'm going to do lolly example, and we're going to get it. Okay, so this gave us a whole bunch of useless information that we don't need for this, but what I do need is at the very top, which should be, okay, up here. Okay, so the height is at 0.75. So the height is being set correctly, at least with the I operator. We're setting the I fractal user method to be the I operator. So in principle, this should all run just fine. But for some reason, the height is not being dynamically set. Or maybe the height is being dynamically set, but something else is going wrong. So let me try something else here. Let me just set this by default to 0.75. Okay, and now we try running this one more time. Oh, I have to include it. Now we're going to run it again, and we're going to take a look at it. No, so the I is still small. So there's something going wrong here, and I don't exactly know what is going wrong, but in principle, the I should scale with the size or the height of the object at hand. I don't actually know why it's not doing that, but I am a little bit past the end of stream time today. So I'm going to figure that out off stream. We're going to figure out what's going on with the scaling, all that kind of stuff. I'll come back, tell you guys the solution Monday, I guess. Oh gosh, I got basically nothing done on today's stream, but I really do have to go. I mean, I've been streaming for 1 hour and 45 minutes now. It's kind of long for a YouTube video for people watching the VODs. And at this point, I don't actually know what the solution is. So my goal is to come back regularly and stream. I will say, if you guys are interested in doing more streams, let me know. The reason I say that is because I'm not entirely sure if streaming on YouTube is a good plan or not. I could go back to streaming on Twitch. I like the fact that the VODs are immediately available and the YouTube player is nice, and you get the chat on the side when you watch it on YouTube later and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things I like about having them on YouTube. The disadvantages are, of course, that I'm putting the channel out in front of people with content that they might not like, so they might unsubscribe. But on the other hand, maybe people here really like the stream, and we get an audience to grow here as well. I don't know. There's a lot of there's a big difference between Twitch and YouTube. I get that. But I'm just going to try YouTube streaming for a bit, see if people like it, and go from there. So what do we have? What are we doing right now? So right now, basically, just for the record, in case people aren't following, I have this guy that I'm trying to draw. It's got a head, it's got a body. The eyes are not scaling with the body, and I don't know why. So I have to look at the operator that generates the eyeball, and I need to make it scale with the height. I tried doing that, and it didn't work. So now I don't know why. It didn't work, and so now I have to figure that out, and that's what I'll do off the stream. I'm sure it's going to be like a very simple thing that I just kind of didn't know about, but after streaming for an hour and 45 minutes, and I'm kind of tired, and so I think this might be where I close it here. Come back on hopefully Monday to stream again. We'll see. I am going to be trying to stream for maybe an hour or two a day until I can get this next animation out. The way I see it is the next animations are going to be slightly less technical, and a lot of people here on stream or here on the YouTube channel are very technically oriented people, right? And so I do want I want the YouTube channel to somehow straddle that line between kind of non-technical videos that anyone can understand, but also technical content for people who want it, right? Same is true for the algorithm archive, everything else. I want to be able to put forward stuff that everyone likes, everyone can enjoy, but that the technically minded people can come in and also, enjoy this part as well. We'll see how it goes. Let me go ahead and catch up here. So what are we doing right now? Energy entropy and information entropy are the same. So at some zoom, level, you necessarily run out of detail since space contains finite information. We're doing right now, but even if fluid dynamics were infinitely detailed and not based on molecules, I don't think there would be detail at every level. Yeah, that could also be true. Irregularity locally and globally. In our current theories, yeah, but once you get between the size of an atom and the size of a nucleus, you can't see very much detail anyway. Also, there's going to be so much gap between the electron and the atom core that if you zoom in to that gap, isn't that the scale at which you lose detail? Maybe I'm misunderstanding. I need to think about that. Bye, see you around. Good luck with the debugging. Thanks for the stream. Sorry for distracting you. Thanks for streaming. No, guys, it's not distracting. There's a reason I'm streaming, and it's just to hang out with you guys. It's basically a way for me to, describe stuff to have that technical heart still in the channel, even if the content becomes a bit easier to understand. Apparently, PeerTube has streaming, but I don't know if that's accessible. Yeah, to be honest, I'm kind of iffy on PeerTube and stuff. I'm not sure if I want to go down that route. Anyway, that is it for now, guys. Have a wonderful day, night, afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time it happens to be your time. I'll see you guys over next time for the next episode of Laos Labs. Again, it's not going to be tomorrow or Sunday, probably on Monday if I do another stream. It really depends on whether my kid gets sick and a whole bunch of other things, but I'm going to do the best I can. So I'll see you guys next time. And yeah, I guess that's it. Bye, guys.